gotta come.
Football fans, Sebastian Fearon here, Doctor of Physical Therapy, working with the guys over at the Sports Gambling Podcast. Another week of football means another injury analysis video. We're here breaking down the Thursday Night Football matchup, looking at all the injuries and how they're going to affect the game, and then looking forward in the week, looking at fantasy football relevant injuries. So let's get it started with NFL Week 5. We have the LA Rams sitting at 3-1 against the division rival Seattle Seahawks sitting at 2-2. I think this is going to be a great, close game. So let's go ahead and get started with the injury report for the Seattle Seahawks. The only guy they have listed as out right now is rookie wide receiver Dwayne Eskridge. He's out of Western Michigan. Seems like a dynamic player in training camp. They were really excited about him. Unfortunately for him and the team, he suffered a concussion in Week 1, and he has not been able to play since. Now, I think this is a great example of just how variable concussion symptoms and the duration of them, how long they can last, can be. For some players, it can be as simple as they come back next week and they respond very well. And for other guys, they can go on missing multiple weeks up to months. So it's something that concussions are largely a mystery, and it's something that we still need to do more research on and figure it out. But I think it's great on him and the team to not put himself out there until he feels 100% safe. Because you got to be able to react to your environment and play at a very high level. So in order to prevent kind of further injury, I think this is a great example of, concussions just are really a big mystery that we need to learn more about. If you want to know more about concussions, I did a video, quick overview about them and some of the research going on down in my channel. Moving forward, as far as what it's going to affect for this game, he hasn't really been a big part of the offense because he hasn't been out there. So with the Seahawks, they have plenty of weapons in Lockett, Metcalf, and Freddie Swain. So it's not going to affect this game too much, but a great example of, how different concussions can affect individuals. Moving forward to someone who is going to definitely affect the Seattle offense, starting running back Carson is listed as questionable with a neck injury. There wasn't many details released as far as what the injury is exactly and what's going on, but in a press conference, Pete Carroll kind of alluded to the fact that this is kind of a long-term issue. So, I don't really need to speculate on exactly what's going on, whether it's a disc issue or a joint issue, but by saying it's a long-term thing that's been aggravated, it's kind of concerning not only for this week, but moving forward. Because if it can be aggravated and it's something he's been dealing with, you never really know when something like this is going to flare up, especially in a contact sport like football. So, he did show up on the Week 1 injury report for the season opener with this neck injury, but he practiced all 3 days, and then he's been able to play since. So right now they're saying they're going to see how he feels warming up, out for the game, when he's out there for the game to start off, and then they'll make the decision there. So if you have Carson on your team or are thinking about putting him in, you definitely need to monitor this situation all the way up. However, I would make the case that, especially if you have him on your team, or even if you don't, that I think Alex Collins is definitely a waiver wire pickup this week and moving forward. So let's look at last week's carry breakdown and receptions. Last week, Carson had 13 carries for 30 yards with 1 reception for 1 yard. Collins had 10 carries for 44 yards, a touchdown, 2 receptions, and 34 yards receiving yards. So he's kind of been providing them a bit of a spark in that backfield as they're changing offensive systems with the new coordinator. So I think moving forward, he's definitely someone to at least have to see, is this injury for Carson going to continue throughout the season? Or is he kind of getting phased out of the passing game there? So I think he's definitely a must-add, especially if you have the room for him. Going forward, Seattle Seahawks, they have Benson Mayowa, backup defensive end, also listed as questionable with the neck injury. Much more optimism for him to play. He had a limited practice Monday and then 2 full practices Tuesday and Wednesday. So he'll likely play. Again, he's a backup. This is big as far as applying pressure to that Rams offensive line. And, this is an offensive line that's only given up 3 sacks this year. So they're more on the top end as far as, protecting the quarterback. Seahawks, 9 sacks on the year, about middle of the road. So I don't think this injury is really going to affect the game too much. A quick note about starting tight end Gerald Everett for the Seahawks. He is expected to be back. He missed last week with COVID and hasn't been activated yet. He has 1 negative test, and he's got to get 1 more. It looks like they sent it off to the lab. They're expecting it to be negative, but if you're planning on playing him, definitely monitor to make sure he's active. All right, the Rams officially have no one on their injury report, which is great news, what every team wants to have. They say anyone who was limited this week is planning on playing. I just want to highlight one guy, Darrell Henderson, running back for them, starter. He had a rib injury that happened in week 2. He actually sat out week 3 and then came back and had a very productive week 4. I think it was a great call by the team by giving him a little bit of rest. Those rib injuries, they can be very painful, and you're a running back. You're going to take hits to the ribs, so that's going to have a chance to re-injure. So I think it was a great call there. Last week he had 14 carries for almost 90 yards, 5 receptions for 27 yards. And that's pretty impressive considering the Rams were down for most of that game. They kind of got handled by the Cardinals. So for him to have that workload, I think it's great. And another great nugget, Seattle has the worst rushing defense in the league. So look for Darrell Henderson to have a big day on the ground there. All right, moving forward into the week, we have Teddy Bridgewater, quarterback for the Denver Broncos. Another guy who unfortunately suffered a concussion. Now, it seems like his progress is moving forward a little bit better than the rookie wide receiver Eskridge for the Seahawks. As far as, he didn't practice today, as in Wednesday, October 6th, but Vic Fangio, head coach, said he is progressing well, and he has returned to weights and film room. So that's a good sign, but we definitely need to see him out there. If he's going to be out there, he has to practice and be cleared to play. So it's going to be pretty obvious who's going to start, whether it's going to be him or Drew Lock. Now, I think if Drew Lock does start, I think the boost goes to the running backs, as in Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams. Drew Lock obviously lost the starting job this year. He's kind of a gunslinger. He, gets in a lot of trouble throwing interceptions. He'll get you a couple deep balls there. He likes the tight ends, but I think what they want to do so far, the Broncos have been very good at managing the game with good defense and good, reliable offense that doesn't turn the ball over. That's what Teddy Bridgewater does. He does not turn the ball over. So one way to limit those turnover opportunities is to go ahead and just hand the ball off a bunch. So I think the running backs in Denver get a boost there. Look at David Montgomery, running back for the Chicago Bears. He's out. He's looking like he's going to miss around 3 to 5 weeks. It's being called a knee sprain. Doesn't really tell me much. Just kind of says he injured his knee. Good news is with that hyperextension injury late in the game, they kind of feared it might have been ACL, something more serious. It turns out it is not. So it's not going to be season ending, but he is going to be missing multiple weeks. As far as the fantasy boost, the Bears announced they're going to be starting Justin Fields, rookie quarterback for the rest of the he's the starter for the time being, which probably means the rest of the year. So they need a run game. So right immediately they have Damian Williams as the backup. He probably gets the biggest fantasy boost going forward for the weeks that Montgomery's going to be out. They also have rookie Khalil Herbert, who's unproven now. But I also think this means that Justin Fields is going to use his legs more because they have to keep the defense honest. Chicago's offense has kind of been a mess right now, but last week when they were able to get the running game going, their offense looked much better. So look for Damian Williams and Justin Fields to have a boost there. Moving on to Washington, they lost a key offensive piece, unfortunately, on the first drive of the game against the Falcons. Logan Thomas, tight end for them, suffered a hamstring injury where he had to limp off the field on the first drive of the game. Non-contact, and he's already been put on IR, so that means it's significant enough damage to that hamstring where the team feels he needs to just focus on resting, which is good for him long-term because hamstrings injuries are very pesky. They will re-injure a lot. And, it's tough to do anything with a hurt hamstring. It cuts down on your lower extremity, your lower body power. You can't sprint. You can't jump as well as you want to. So we'll have to see what this means going forward for him. This isn't a great injury. This is about, one of the worst injuries as far as non-season ending because it can be pesky. But we'll have to see and monitor a situation. As far as if you have another option, I would probably drop him in your fantasy leagues. But if you, really believe in him, you've got an IR spot, you can go ahead and put it there. Fantasy boost-wise for this offense, I think the biggest things is, they have the backup tight end, Ricky Seals-Jones. You can't really start him right now. He's not proven. He doesn't have much value. I think who does get a boost is the guys like J.D. McKissic and Adam Humphries. McKissic's already had a big role as a pass catcher out of the backfield. I think this only increases his role as far as getting easy targets for Heineke over the middle, and same thing with Humphries. So I think those guys get a boost there. And then finally, we have Jimmy Garroplo, quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. He injured his calf last week. Actually, initially, they thought it was going to be worse than it is. They thought it was going to be a calf strain, which was going to have him miss at least 2 weeks, and it could be a re-injury type thing where it would linger. Thankfully for them and him, it seems like it's only going to be a calf contusion, which basically a contusion is a bruise. So once the swelling and the pain goes down, he should be able to play. Right now, he didn't practice on Wednesday, but Shanahan says he has been progressing, and he has said there's still a chance that he starts on Sunday. So definitely monitor that situation. I think if rookie quarterback Trey Lance, I think it's a great time to play the Arizona Cardinals defense. he has not shown the ability to really be able to read defenses and pick them apart or throw the ball accurately. He's going to look to run and use his legs, but I think it's a great time to capitalize on a young rookie who, he doesn't even know if he's going to be the starter or not this week. So if he does get thrown in there, I think this is going to be a good week for the Cardinals to kind of feast on him. All right, guys, that's it for this week. As always, I'm putting out an injury report on Tuesday nights, and then for the NFL, for fantasy football, and then I'm doing a college football injury report that gets posted on Fridays. And then that's over at sportsgamblingpodcast.com. And then as always, for the up-to-date news, you can go ahead and follow me on Twitter at SGPNFootballDoc. All right, guys, have a great week.